The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I will be your host for today's podcast. I am co-founder of Financing Solutions, and we are the leading provider of lines of credit for small nonprofits in the United States. We've been around for over 12 years. We have a popular product. And today, if you're interested in learning more about our line of credit, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. And today's sponsor for the podcast is Arrays. Arrays Fast Fund Online is an accounting software specifically made for small to medium-sized nonprofits. I really believe in getting software that's specifically made for nonprofits. I think it's a lot better than having something like QuickBooks or something else that is generic. And the people at Arrays speak your language. And so if you're interested in learning more, go to arrays.com. It's ARAIZE.com, or call Joe at 866-840-7449. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Erica Wasdorp from A Direct Solution. Erica wrote the popular book, Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant, and her second book, which came out in mid-2021, Monthly Giving Made Easy, as well. She created the Monthly Donor Roadmap and several ebooks to include the top 7 questions that monthly giving, the Monthly Donor Retention Playbook, and more that talk about those things. Erica is a master trainer for the Association of Fundraising Professionals and the former International Fundraising Congress U.S. Ambassador. Erica, welcome to today's Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Thanks, Stephen. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, and you're here for a second time, so
Yes.
Welcome back. Today's topic, we're going to talk about how to get recurring giving for your nonprofit. What percentage of recurring giving do nonprofits typically have?
It's all over the map. So those organizations that have been doing it for a while, they're seeing about 15% of their donors that make recurring gifts. Some organizations, actually, like a lot of public television, public radio stations, were almost like early adopters of monthly giving. So they're seeing sometimes even 60% of their members give monthly. So it's really all about like the investment, the time that you spend to grow it. That helps you, get to that next level. So
What should it be? If you're coming into a client, you're consulting with that client, what do you want to see? I know you're going to say, I want to see the most, but
Right.
what is
Yeah, that's great. I would say 15% is probably a good number to shoot for. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then go from up. It kind of depends a little bit on like how do they get to the numbers that they're at. Because what I find is a lot of times, like one of my questions, I do a lot of webinars and presentations, and one of the questions is, how often do you ask a donor to consider a monthly gift? And then I might say, once, twice a year, sometimes never. Well, the reality is if you're never asking for the donor to consider it, you're certainly not going to grow, right? So based on how many times they've asked, that will help you determine like, okay, well, can you step it up some more? Okay, maybe you're at 5% of your donors now. Let's see if we can get you to 8% to 10 to 15% down the road. So start with your existing donors. And again, the bulk of the monthly donors are small donors. They're not your big check writers. So target your under $250 one-time givers. So those are your prime prospects.
Does it make sense to have somebody? So let's say someone says, "I'll give you $1,000 right now," and you said, "Listen, instead of the $1,000, because I know I have an angle here. Instead of the $1,000, can you give us $100 a month instead?" And the reason being is I know statistically it's like something like 60% of people who make reoccurring revenue will not stop.
Right. Yeah. So well, that's a great question. But the reality is that somebody who is able to write $1,000 check right from the get-go, you want them to write a $2,000 check and a $5,000 check, right? This is more aimed at if somebody says, geez, I wish I could give $1,000, but I can't. Can I do 85 or $100 a month? Then, of course, you're going to say yes. But it's more like if the donor is already comfortable writing the big check, try to upgrade them to higher levels, put them into your mid-level and major donor program. This is more for donors that are making, $25, $50, $100 one-time gifts, and they're just not, and they've often done that more than once, right? So they're loyal donors. They want to help, but now this is a great way for them to give in a way that's comfortable for them, that they can afford.
So I know if someone's listening right now, I mean, I love data, I love statistics. I just think it cuts through everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell us for our listeners right now, all the statistics that you think are significant in regards to recurring, donations.
Right. Okay. All of it. Okay. So I actually have it on my website. There's a statistics page. If you go to adirectsolution.com and you search statistics, there's pretty much any report that has ever been published that has statistics about recurring giving in it is there. But I'm waiting for two companies that do a lot of analysis on sustainers. Like one is DonorCentrics, the Blackbot sustainer benchmarking group that's in the process of being published right now. And then there's like MNR Strategic Benchmarking, who does a lot of analysis on online giving. But if we look at like the average monthly donor gives $25 a month. So that's $300 a year. And they're going to stay with you for an average 5 to 7 years, sometimes even longer, right? Obviously, if you've had a program for a while, you're going to stay much longer than some organizations I know that have been doing this for a while. They're seeing monthly donors that have been giving monthly for 20 years, right? And I was reading something even early today about like a lot of like universities, alums that have been giving, $10 or $15 or $20 a month for many, many years, and then decide to make a big gift, right? So there's certainly that option, but again, it's all on how does a donor get engaged, right? So $25 a month. 15% of your donors, is a pretty common statistic in terms of trying to convert them. Donors that you convert from one time to monthly, their retention rate goes up to like 90-95%. So and again, that's again, who doesn't want 90% retention rate, right? So again, there's another big major draw for that, because right now average donor retention rate is about 43%. So
Well,
if
I mean, the
yeah,
numbers are all there,
yes, the
right?
numbers are all there. $300 a year. And I think the other thing is, just because somebody gives monthly doesn't mean that you have to stop communicating. It doesn't mean that that's the only gifts they give. You can absolutely reach out during giving days. You can absolutely reach out to ask them for to support a capital campaign or a special project. Send them an appeal a couple of times a year. Send them emails. So there's like a lot of like engagement that you can do with asking. So, but always remember that whenever you reach out to an existing monthly donor, that you recognize them as such, and that you ask them for an extra gift. So that that's really, really crucial, right?
So in the books that you've written in the articles you've written in regards to this subject, tell us give us the cliff notes, the short version of really what you found with this recurring revenue.
Well, again, I mean, I found that recurring revenue is helping to keep the lights on, and especially those organizations. I mean, we're just kind of getting over a pandemic, right? So those organizations that had sustainers, that had monthly donors, they were sitting pretty. They saw that the money was coming in because a lot of people, a lot of our nonprofits were going on the breaks, right? They weren't sending anything because they were afraid to alienate their donors and say, oh, we can't ask for money right now. So if they had monthly revenue coming in, that was really supporting them, in a major fashion, right? So, yeah, I mean, monthly, the other piece is like what I'm seeing for organizations, especially those that have had monthly donors for a while, they are more likely to leave you in their will. So again, you're getting the small gifts of $25 a month now, but then you might be getting a $50,000 legacy gift, right, after they pass on. So, because again, there's that engagement, there's that loyalty, there's that buy-in, from the donor into the organization, right? So they want to help, and they're just not able to write the big checks yet.
Yeah, I mean, when did recurring revenue recurring donations, excuse me, start to come into vogue?
Whoa, I would say, Greenpeace was like an organization that they started the canvassing program where, street fundraising. So they really pushed monthly giving along because of that. Excuse me.
God bless you.
Um, and, so that was about 1993. Sorry. Got a
God
frog,
bless you
frog in my
again.
throat. I got a frog in my throat. So it's not allergies. And let's see. So I mean, it depends a little bit on the different organizations. I mean, personally, I moved to this country in 1993, so I got involved and started managing a program with monthly giving that had been in existence for a couple of years, and we really pushed it ahead. But it was still in those early days, it was still mail and phone, right? So I think monthly giving's really pushed like to higher levels when email and online giving came into the picture. So that was in the early
Oh,
20,
oh.
that really made a big push, right? Because mail and phone and even canvassing and DRTV, direct response television, was coming into the picture a little bit around that September 11 disaster. So I think that really helped organizations say, hey, the money keeps coming in, no matter what disaster happens. Hey, we've got the Katrina, relief, Katrina hurricane that happened. Again, organizations were not able to get out in the mail. They saw that money coming in. So that's when they said, okay, what can we do to step it up? Meanwhile, online giving became more common, right? So, I mean, I wrote my first book in 2012, and most donor-based CRMs did not have a recurring giving option built in at that point. Now that has changed. Over the past 10 years, a lot has changed, right? So every single donation, donor base, online platform has the recurring giving option built in. So the only thing you have to do as an organization is to ask the donors to consider it and drive them to that page. Drive them to go there, drive them to say, make a recurring gift. So that is really, I think, sort of like um, you know, lifted monthly giving to the next level where it's so such less investment. It's time investment. It's not money investment anymore. And before that, it was all about, I mean, telemarketing was expensive, like mail was pretty expensive, not quite as expensive as it is now, but it was pretty expensive, right? So that investment was much higher. Now the investment is time.
Yeah.
Time in asking the donor to consider it.
So, I mean, I'm just thinking through, and of course, I don't come from that industry, but so you have people making donations, people leaving money in a will,
Yeah.
reoccurring revenue, or donations. You have events to raise money. What do you think the next big trend is?
So the next big trend right now is, I mean, a lot of organizations are looking at what they call connected TV streaming, right? So ads while people are watching TV on their streaming device. That's the next big thing where again you got to reach the donors where they're at, and every donor is at a different location, a different, venue, a different type of program that they're watching, a different channel. So I see that's where I think the next wave is going. Digital is going to continue, email is going to continue, and mail and phone are still there as well. Text giving is another area where I see more, the trends are going that more support. You might send an email, but then you send a text reminder. So if you have the permission, if you have the donor's cell phone information. So those are a couple of areas where I see more emphasis on at the moment. And especially for the bigger organizations, right? But even smaller organizations have a lot of times they have the tools. There's some systems there you can easily do a text campaign.
You know, do you treat recurring? And I have to apologize to our listeners. I have some construction being done, so that's where you're hearing some noise. The is there is there the way that you thank someone for recurring revenue different
Mhm.
than for one-time donors?
Yeah, it is. It is different. So, again, you wanna when a donor first becomes a monthly donor, regardless of how they're doing that, whether they call in or whether they send something in the mail or whether they go online and give, the you want to make sure that you get them something in the mail that has your contact information, a person's name, a person's email, a person's phone number, and that tells them. So I call that the monthly donor promises, right? It tells them what the donor can expect. Now, what the donor is not going to expect, but you have to tell them that is, we're not going to send you monthly thank you letters in the mail, okay? Because that would be a waste of a stamp. But instead, every January we'll send you a tax letter showing you the total amount of all of the gifts that you've made, including the monthly gifts, not just
Yep.
the monthly gifts, but all of the gifts.
Yep.
So that's one. So you still send them the thank you email in the landing page, all of that, but send them something that they're going to hold on to. I mean, if you have a business card, send them a business card. So anything that you can do to build trust at that first interaction is really critical to keeping donors down the road. And then tell them that you're going to send them updates, but you don't have to specify how often that is and what that looks like, so because otherwise, again, and especially smaller organizations that don't have a lot of staff, don't tell the donor that they're going to get monthly email newsletters if you're not able to do that, right? Or don't tell them that you're going to send them a quarterly special newsletter if you're just not able to do that. So make it easy on yourself. I'm all for, like, if you've heard me before, I'm all for trying to keep things simple and doable. Um, don't overthink it. Just tell them you're going to get updates, and then you can do stuff as it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
say you're a nonprofit and you work with kids, and say, you get some wonderful little drawings from a kid. Well, scan it in and pop it in an email and send it to your monthly donor saying, wow, you made this happen. right? So thank you cards from board members are great. I mean, so thank you calls are great. Thank you messages are wonderful. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but you don't have to tell them up front that that's what they're going to get. It's better off if that's sort of like something more surprising. And then again, every time that you send the monthly donor something, and that's so easy to do in an email program, have a special version. Say you're doing a donor newsletter by email every month. Well, for those monthly donors, say, thanks so much for your ongoing monthly support. Here's this month's newsletter, right? It's one line, right? But make sure that you say thank you for their ongoing support wherever you can. So that the donor knows, yes, I'm part of this special group, right? As part of this special community.
What do you like? What statistics do you look at with recurring donations that catch your attention? Like, so an example, if 40% of someone's donation base is recurring, right? Um, and you see a 20% drop in people year over year who don't renew, but
Yeah.
then they backfill it with 20% more, so you still get the 40%. I'm assuming that's a concern of yours,
That
correct?
is a concern. Yes, yes, yes. So that's why, I kind of recommend take because a lot of systems, like you can join on the first of the month, the second, the fifth, whatever, right? So and it becomes like sort of a rolling recurring gift that it renews on a different day of the month. So take one day a month and make that what I call like your monthly donor retention day, and sit down and say, okay, which are my monthly donors whose cards are about to expire, especially for credit cards, right? So whose cards are about to expire, and then which are the ones that their payment did not come in. Okay, then, you know, look at what can you do? Can you give them a call? Can you send them an email? Does the system send them an email? Did that actually go out, right? So, and then send them a postcard or send them a letter saying, it looks like your card has expired. We miss you really. Like we want to make sure that you're continue to be part of this very special group. Can you call us or contact us to give us your updated information? So, and I saw a statistic recently where 25% of nonprofits does not follow up on those people whose card expires. So
Wow,
that's like, yeah.
that's unbelievable.
So again, it's low hanging fruit to say, well, let's like, make sure that these donors continue because, and I know sometimes nonprofits make assumptions, right? They're like, well, the donor probably didn't want to renew. And the reality
Oh
is
my God, I would never
that's
think that.
well, I know, but I've heard it all, right? So that's not the case at all, right? So unless a donor calls you and says, I don't want to do this anymore, they want to continue. But I mean, we're busy, right? Donors are busy. So they did not realize that they got a new card, whatever, something got compromised. So they didn't remember that they have to tell you what their updated information is, right? So, so definitely make sure that you pick up the phone and send them an email and contact them and say, can you give us your updated information?
I
It,
would not.
yeah,
I wouldn't stop until I
no,
got an
no,
answer.
don't stop. Right.
Which the answer would be is because the answer is telling that someone you really should get them on the phone and say at
Yes.
one point and say is and then hear from them when they say I stopped donating and I want to know why. I'm not in an
Right.
aggressive
Yes.
fashion, but
Yes.
what that's critical information.
Yeah. Well, and
You
just like before, just to continue on that one thing, like those organizations that had multi donors early on during COVID, right? A lot of people, they were very concerned. March and April, they were very concerned that donors would drop out, that they would cancel. And there were some donors that contacted the organization. Those organizations that had what we call like a save script in place, were able to keep 30% of those donors that were ready to cancel. Because it said, look, would you consider a smaller amount? Would you consider pausing your gift? Because I understand it's a very volatile time right now, right? So, and a lot of donors said, huh, I didn't know I could do that. Yes, I'd be happy to because again, they care, right? So just like, so don't assume too soon that the donor really wants to stop. If they contact you, they almost want it's almost like you want they want you to talk them out of it, So
Yeah.
yeah,
I like
sorry.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having a talk track. I know, like, for example, like I get wine in a month, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
there's sometimes I have too much wine.
Yeah.
So, I call them up and I say, could you pause it for 6 months?
Mhm.
So, or can we revisit this in 6 months? We'll pause it for 6 months. We'll start it. And then if you don't want it at that
Yes.
time, you can
Yes.
cancel it. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Most people, they just want to be heard. Listen, if they have a
Heard. Yes.
complaint, they
Yeah.
want to be heard. I know that happens with me when I make a donation to my university, and they're terrible. They
Mhm.
just keep asking me for more money,
Mhm.
and so, I mean, I get it. They have 500,000 alumni, but still, I mean, my donations aren't small.
Right.
And, but, I like what you said early on, and you said, keep it simple, right? And so, when I walk into my office every day, I sit there and I say, what do I need to be doing right now that will make the biggest impact on my organization? And, recurring revenue for a nonprofit, we're not talking about $3,000 a year. We're
No.
talking about $15,000
Right.
over 5 years,
Yeah.
right? And you times that by 100, 200, 300, whatever it
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
it's not a small amount of money.
Nope. Nope.
So, you really should.
Yeah.
So, and then I like what you said too. And then, so, like, I think if when you put time onto something, you attention,
Mhm.
you work it. And so
Mhm.
you said take a day, but should you be taking a day a month, and really, putting it on your calendar and say, once a month, I'm going to look at the statistics for the reoccurring donations.
That are
And
at risk. Yes. Yes.
is that what you're recommending?
Yes, yes. So once a month, say make it a donor retention day and say those are the monthly donors at risk, right? So definitely make sure that you don't wait too long, just like put it on your calendar. I think the other piece is, I mean, I would love to see organizations like every Monday say, I'm going to spend a couple of hours on my recurring donor program and say, okay, I'm going to craft some emails. I'm going to craft a postcard. I'm going to look at my mailing and see where can I add the option to make a recurring gift. And then I think the other piece is like whenever you look at the value of those monthly donors, annualize the revenue. So again, to your point, it's like a $300 a year donor. Well, what if you got 10 of them? Okay, so what if you got 100 of them, right? So I think that's a really big factor. I mean, and again, to your point, you can even annualize for like, you know, take the value times five, and see and even like big organizations, they don't necessarily know what the value is of their monthly donors until they really look at it and think, oh, wow, I had no idea that, the average monthly donor is worth like $400, for this particular organization that I was working with. And then we talked about credit cards. Well, if you can get them to give by ACH, electronic bank transfer, that value is going up even more, right? So again, and then you don't have to worry about any credit card expirations because people don't change banks that much, right? And a lot of the people like you that have subscriptions, and everybody really has subscriptions now. Like if you have subscriptions, a lot of times that is done from bank accounts, or if you're younger donors, a lot of them are very comfortable with their bank account. So
Yeah, I mean, I I know. Listen, we offer a line of credit to nonprofits. The nonprofits that have a larger percentage of reoccurring donations don't need the line of credit,
correct. Hmm.
because they have that really pays the bills,
Hmm.
consistent cash flow,
Hmm.
right? The reason why they need a line of credit often is because of infrequent, sometimes it's not donation related. It's usually reimbursements that are delayed, state and federal reimbursements that are delayed,
Yeah.
and that's what they need the line of credit for. But um, so I agree with you that the idea, and also probably benchmarking against other organizations. If what did you say the better organizations are getting with reoccurring donations? 60%.
Yeah, like organizations that have been doing this for a while, or even public TV and public radio stations,
Yeah.
60% of their revenue comes from monthly gifts.
Yeah, so I would be
So,
looking at this and as an executive director and saying is if we're at 5%,
mhm,
we gotta switch this out, you
yeah.
know. Um,
Yeah. And
and
you
then
mentioned
plus,
earlier events. So again, a lot of times when you think about like events, yeah, it sounds like they might make quite a bit of money, but sometimes they don't. So
oh
take a look
yeah,
and say, this time you spend on events, what if you spent that time on working on your monthly donor program, right?
yeah.
So,
Or you
that's
use
and
the event to drive your
right.
reoccurring donation. So you say is,
Yes.
okay, listen, we maybe we only make a couple, $20,000-$30,000 off this event, but what could we do to change these people into
Hmm.
reoccurring donors? And that would be then the objective
Right.
instead of the event itself, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. What do so I think the takeaway that we got today was the power of reoccurring revenue, which donations, which I think a lot of people. You think most people know already?
I think they know, but then they're torn with the short term versus the long term revenue goals. That's
Yeah,
what trips up a lot of organizations. It's like they're like, I need the money now, so I need the $1,000 checks, rather than I need these $25 a month owners, right? And the reality is they're two different target groups, really, right? So again, as an organization, you will, it's basically a diversification of revenue, so that you're not just dependent on your big guys. And what if a big donor goes away, or whatever? No, you're starting to build that small ongoing sustainable revenue that comes into play. um, and again, like, build legacy revenue from those smaller donors, because it's not necessarily going to come from the big donors, right? They have other types of tax, advantage type of giving that they like to support through, right?
yeah,
So, but yeah, diversify your revenue, and think about this, like, monthly giving is really a long term, it's a long game. It's a long-term revenue. So you need to do both. But again, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to do it anymore. So you just need to focus on it. And one of the things that I sort of the trick that I've seen is have like a special line item in your budget that's every year, like saying, okay, we've got this sustainable revenue from recurring donors. In year one, this is what it is, and then you go into year two, and then everybody says, okay, well, hey, we see how it's growing, right? And then you see, how do you fill in the rest of the budget? So almost like start there first. And then I think those organizations that really started focusing on it, they had a special line item in their budget for that, for the recurring gift.
so I want you to think of a client of yours
Hmm.
that is in a $2 to $3 million yearly revenue. So this is a smaller nonprofit, and the executive director, maybe you've been working with them for a while, and tell me how where they started and then how they grew. That the
Yeah.
organization, the executive director themselves. Tell me, and this is what I'm looking for is a case study on
Hmm.
somebody who's really sharp, who was autodidactic, which means that they're self-taught. But they got really good at what they do. And so tell me where they were, and then tell me where they are now.
Yeah, so I'd have a client in, it's an environmental organization, and they took a look at their recurring donors, and they had 15 of them that had come in organically. Donors had says, yes, I want to do this. And the first step we did was set a goal. So where do we want to go in the next 6 months? And we said, let's triple those 15. So get to 45. Okay. Then what we did was take a look at those 15. Number one, send them a thank you, call them and ask them, why are they giving monthly? And then use their testimonials to reach out to others. And it was just amazing at why the donors, I mean, the donors told the executive director why they were giving monthly, and it really helped them in their emails. They posted some testimonies on their website. They sent up a testimony in a letter, so they really could capitalize on that. So donors love hearing from other donors. So that was and that was a very simple exercise, right? So and the donors were really, really grateful. So then we created a special campaign. Um, we had a match. The organization was existed for 35 years. So we said, all right, let's do a $3,500 match, and we want to generate 35 new monthly donors. And they generated 40. And so they got the match, $3,500 in addition to 40 new monthly donors. And now they had broken through, like, well through the goal, right? So they had more than accomplished it. And then we said, all right, well, okay, we've got, and at the end of the year, they were at 85. So they started at 15. So just, and it was like a couple of different small things that they did. The second thing that they did was every email that they send, they had two buttons. One was give now, the other was give monthly. And they got a lot of, like, again, low hanging fruit from those donors that says, you know what? Yeah, I want to give monthly, right? So those are just a couple of small things that the executive director did that really grew the number of monthly donors to the next level.
Well, I think, certainly the trends have been
Yeah,
you want more
right.
reoccurring donations, right? It's just that the statistics are so much more there about larger amounts of money, helping with cash flow, making it easier, moving them into bigger donations down the road.
Right.
I mean, this
Yep.
isn't the first podcast I've had about this subject matter. I'm learning a lot. It's really good
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Well, that's all the time we have today. I would like to thank so very much Erica Wasdorp from A Direct Solution for coming on today's podcast. And if you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend, and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And if you like today's podcast or any of the other ones that we've done in the past, please help us get the word out by giving us a 5-star review. And if you're looking for a line of credit for your nonprofit, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Erica, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Go to my website, adirectsolution.com, or send me an email, erica@adirectsolution.com. Yeah,
Great. Thanks for coming on today.
you're welcome. Thanks, Stephen.
So I want to thank all our listeners, not for listening. Thank you for that. But I want to thank you for making the world a better place. We have a lot of issues and problems going on and globally, and we all know we need a lot of help, and you guys are out there every day making a difference. And I thank you for that. I know Erica and I are doing our own part in our own way. And but you guys are out there in the front lines. I just want to remind you to take good care of yourself. You're no good to your family, your friends, your constituents, your people you're helping, your employees, if you don't take care of yourself first. So, and that means exercising, eating right, proper rest, all the things that we know we should be doing that we don't do. So I just want to remind you, take care of yourself. We need you. Other than that, again, thank you for listening to today's podcast, and have a great day.